kind of crumbled for ROCCAT. So we'll see what they opt towards in this next champion state if they need to change something up here, VODs.
The music, that's for sure.
The music
has
been
changed.
It is, yeah. Bringing up the hype here in the studio. But Swain's going to be banned away from the Unicorns, or by the Unicorns, followed by Caitlyn, similar to the first game. Take that away from Betsy and Steelback, and Trundle and Bard. So really did not like those two picks in from the Unicorns.
No, and it makes sense because Chachi was able to put a lot of pressure down onto Parang, made it difficult for him to actually get involved with the Shen, and even though he interrupted Shen at times with which even if the Shen joined it wouldn't have mattered, the fact that he could do that to the Shen does mean that there was very few options for Trundle to actually, for the Shen to actually get involved in a lot of these fights. And interestingly, UOL are the team to ban away this Jhin, so Veritas, now I'm wondering what he's going to be able to go back to, because we have to think, could he play the Ashe? Could he play something more utility focused? Could he move back to the Sivir perhaps? Or we have seen him play a couple of Ezreal games, obviously not to that much success given that they do have a pretty bad record. But still, there's just a lot of questions for me with the fact that Unicorns of Love banning away their Jhin. To me, it says that they have other things that are on their mind in terms of priority.
But that's the first thing we've seen that's really ticked all the boxes for Veritas. It's been really impressive for him. Last ban was Vladimir, so taking that off the table. And that was an instant lock of the Shen in from Chachi. So one denying that from ROCCAT, but it didn't do all that much. I mean, it looked good being able to stop the early potential from Unicorns, but this time Chachi's going to bring this one out. And now ROCCAT, it's up to them what they want to bring to the table.
Well, the Trundle's gone. So now what do you pick into the Shen? I mean, as the Shen expert, are there any things that you would hate to play against?
As Shen? I mean, Shen right now, I mean, like, it's not just about the 1v1 matchup, it's about the global pressure he exerts on the map, you know? And no, I guess is the, is the answer there.
We've seen the Irelia into Shen matchup, and you need a lot of specific requirements to have that Irelia come out ahead. So I do like this early pickup of the Shen. It's a very safe pick for Unicorns of Love because they know that ROCCAT clearly value it, given that they blind pick first rotation Shen in the first in game one. So they've taken that one away, and they've basically said, come at us, show us what you've got. Do you have any answers to your own plan?
Yeah. Let's see if ROCCAT do have that answer. They picked up the Ryze early on into the draft, along with the Lucian coming in here for Steelback. So a bit more aggression down there in the bottom lane, try and get some outplay happening. Unicorns of Love, 15 seconds left on the clock. What are they going to pick up here? Are they going to go bot lane here, pick up an ADC and support? Karma's still open.
So what I actually find interesting about this Ryze is the fact that we've seen more teams let it through. And to me, it seems like teams are finding a way to play around it. We have to remember that a couple of nerfs did come into the Ryze on patch 6.11, which weren't massive. They didn't completely kill him, and every region was still saying, no, 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 you can't let Ryze through. There's no way we can let you play this champion. So a lot of people were afraid of it, but then some teams were like, no, you can have him, you can have him. We've got a couple strategies in mind. And to be fair, we have seen some effective strategies. If you have that lane bully, Azir in particular, does a great job of keeping Ryze at arm's length. That makes it very difficult for him to get into these fights. And Nivea has been another champion that has basically said, no, I'm going to make it difficult for you to run at us and get into these fights. So I like the fact that UOL have left it through, but again, we have to wonder, what do UOL have an answer towards this Ryze?
Yeah, I always feel like Ryze has become a bit of a trap pick for people, a bit of a trap card, because he doesn't even have a positive win rate here in EU. So yeah, we'll see how that one works out. The picks were also Graves and Ezreal on the other side. So it's been a while since we've seen since Graves. Just a bit of a graphics problem here. So it is Rek'Sai and Braum, which was picked up by ROCCAT. So if you were wondering, so just imagine those are on your screen right now.
Yeah, just
imagination.
Just picture, use the power of imagination and friendship. But anyway, the I like that tribute to Yorick, given that it is his birthday.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Graves and Ezreal. Let's talk about the Graves and Ezreal, because Graves, as you rightly said, has fallen out of favor just a little bit, largely because he doesn't quite have the same early game power that a lot of other junglers possess. So he's quite good in sort of long scaling sort of comps, and to be fair, the fact that UOL have drafted this Ezreal who's likely going to go, I would imagine, towards the blue build Ezreal, especially when you pair it up with an Azir, means that UOL now are saying, we want to go towards the late game, we want to scale up. and they're actually sort of challenging ROCCAT in the sense of, go on then ROCCAT, we're giving you a composition, we're giving you a playstyle that suits you, because we feel confident enough that we can beat you at your own game.
All right, a lot has just happened here, though. We had the Varus pickup from ROCCAT, so bringing the long-range counter to the mid lane. A lot of people consider Varus a counter to Azir, but also, fabulous pick, Taric has come down for the Unicorns of Love. I hope it's a pink Taric as well for Unicorns. That would have a lot of synergy here, but what do you make of Taric coming out?
So Taric, a champion that we haven't seen very much of. We saw it during the Challenger Series come out from SK's bottom lane.
Unlimited loved that pick.
The MF Taric combo was quite devastating. During the laning phase, he doesn't have that much pressure, but he can make some pretty amazing plays with his ultimate. He does a great job of keeping his team aligned. The sustain and the surprising pick potential that he does have is pretty strong. And in terms of the 2v2 matchup, I would give the advantage, the ever so slight advantage, over to the Braum and the Lucian, because Braum is very good into melee support. So we could very well see a lane swap coming out from the Unicorns of Love, and we do know how Shen does very well. Ryze, not so well. The Ryze into the top lane is a good answer for Shen, but ROCCAT are saying, hey, we want these standard lanes. Varus, really good into Azir. Lucian, Braum, really good into Ezreal, Taric. Ryze, range advantage. You're going to freely scale up against the Shen. So ROCCAT want to try their very best to get these standard lanes, whereas Unicorns, they're very likely going to try and avoid it.
Indeed, and as we load up for our second game here, use hashtags UOL win and ROC win as we hit the rift very shortly. And who would have guessed Unicorns of Love with one win up in this series against ROCCAT as we get in here. Bloodstone Taric, really? Didn't go for Armor of the 5th Age?
Wow, so much judgment.
It's the Unicorns of Love. Their color and thing is pink and unicorns, and they went with the red skin? Come on. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But, gonna have a pause out here. Probably noticed that they had the wrong skin, so could be remaking here for Pink Taric. No, that's not what's happening. We'll get some information to you guys very shortly on what's up.
So this gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the comps, because obviously a lot happened during Champion Select, so
indeed,
all these interesting picks coming out. So let's just have a look at this. ROCCAT, they have the Varus, they have the Lucian, and initially you're thinking, oh, they're actually a pretty good poke composition, but then I'm wondering where the Ryze fits into all of this, because when you have a poke comp, typically what you want is a solid front line, right, for your poke composition to hide behind, but also it acts as an engage tool. So you're basically saying, we're going to poke, 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 and then what we're going to do is when you're low, we're going to force a fight, because you're too low to fight back, so you're going to try and run away, and then this is great for us, because now you're in a sticky situation that you can't do anything about. But Ryze does not really offer that. Ryze is not a champion that acts as a solid front line that allows you to just quickly start these fights off. So yes, ROCCAT have pretty good pick potential. There's a lot of single target damage with the Varus ultimate, the Ryze Rune Prison. You've also got the Braum Q, but it's not that great at team fighting. It's not that great at, I mean, it has poke, but the whole team comp doesn't synergize. And I feel like what ROCCAT did was they picked the Ryze, realized that it was a bad matchup into the Azir, and so last minute they go, okay, let's just, Ryze is going into Shen, Varus going into Azir, so let's just pick standard lanes and hope that we can come out ahead in the laning phase. So, not personally a massive fan of the draft from ROCCAT, whereas Unicorns of Love, good on team fighting, really good at kiting, very well rounded, very much about the mid to late game. And I feel like honestly, Unicorns of Love have come out ahead pretty significantly in the draft.
And also to keep track of is the lane swap if we get one to start this one off, because Unicorns of Love would like that lane swap to go down. Chachi would be fantastic in that lane swap, and try and get Hylissang and Veritas out of that 2v2. So do of course have Veritas and Hylissang heading to the top side. And this is going to be read by ROCCAT. They didn't get a lot of early information. They just put wards down the river. So instead, we're going to see the dual lane and bot lane. Exile is making some bird noises. And we will see this 1v1 in the mid. So my question to you, Vedius, is why didn't ROCCAT try harder to get standard lanes?
You'll have to ask ROCCAT that, I'm afraid. Because, I mean, it should be relatively obvious that the swap was coming out, but Raze, what he's trying to do right now is get some deep vision down onto the red buff, because you want to try and push Unicorns off this red, you want to take them away from the strong half of your jungle, and the fact that Unicorns actually initiated this, yet they're not trying to get this deep vision down, I think is a big mistake. You can see Hylissang coming in very late to the party, means that Elwax and Parang have already completed a camp, they've also going to get themselves the Raptors, and this is actually going to take a lot of jungle away from Move. So yes, he's going to get the red buff, but he's not going to get all that extra experience, and he is going to be a little bit behind Airwax in the early game.
Sad days. But mid lane, we have Varus, as we mentioned in Champion Select, is considered the counter to Azir, is able to outrange him, put down that long-range poke. He and Azir, he and Vel'Koz rather, big picks in mid lane against the Azir. But standard lane swap, not too much to write home about here, Vedius, and we'll see how this transitions into the mid game. And of course, ROCCAT do want to try and get a little bit later into this game, but Unicorns of Love also, as the draft went on, picked up later scaling champions, so I don't even think they're going to be that upset if we get later into the game against ROCCAT. So it's really down to see if this red team can execute on their composition better than Unicorns, but they made a lot of mistakes last game that wasn't expecting really to see from them.
Yeah, but I do want to give praise to Unicorns of Love though for also setting up those plays.
Hylissang as well, big
yeah,
part of that.
Hylissang in particular. So right now, ROCCAT and UOL pretty even in terms of the actual setting up for the lane swap. What you want to do now, if you're the support, is move up towards halfway through the lane, get the ward down, identify who's coming back. There is a Mountain Drake, but unlikely that either team will go for it. What we could see from Unicorns of Love is they return back to standard lanes. You have your bottom lane in the bottom half of the map. You then have Shen soak up as much farm as he can in the top lane. And then what you do is you push up to that tier 2 turret, tier 1, sorry, turret in the bottom lane, and then you can quickly rotate around and pick up that Drake because you're now on the strong side of the map. And getting that Mountain Drake very early on is great because it works towards the potential of 3 Mounted Drakes, which then increases your turret taking potential, your objective taking potential, which is great when you have this long-range poke sort of siege situation of Azir and Ezreal. So Mountain Drake going to be very valuable for Unicorns of Love. But what I am worried about is Exile on this Azir, because we've seen him play it in the past. It's not an assassin. It's very much a control mage. Your positioning is very important. And speaking of positioning, he's a bit far up this lane right now.
Yeah, Airwax comes in, and Exile's having to burn the very early flash. So, yeah, not a lot invested by Airwax other than time. So he's pretty happy with this result. Also going to help Betsy just push it in. A couple Queen's Wrath auto attacks will help Betsy just push it in and back off. So we'll gain a small CS lead over Exile as he will have to take the long path back to mid lane. Of course, never picks up teleports, so won't have that one. Here comes the TP out from Chachi to push down the bottom lane, and we'll be able to push this one away. So 1-to-1 towers so far will also be traded to 2-on-2 towers.
Yep. So identical setup from both sides, and the big objective will be this Mountain Drake. It wouldn't surprise me if Unicorns of Love decide to pick it up. And now what we'll see is very much just the same on both sides. Yeah. So the bottom lane pushes towards ROCCAT, Parang catches it, then pushes back. Meanwhile, on the top half of the map, it pushes towards Unicorns of Love, and then you just collect it back and forth. You have this ping-pong scenario where you basically wait for one of the two top laners to teleport at the wrong time or Shen ult at the wrong time to really shift the game in a certain direction. But with the Mountain Drake now being started off by Unicorns of Love, they're going to scale nicely towards that mid to late game where they're going to have good objective control.
Good to know. And there's Unicorns of Love priority on the Dragon. You mentioned the reasons why they want to pick it up, and now they will secure it. So pretty happy with how this one's starting off. And only 6 minutes into the game, so pretty good for them. Betsy going to be opening up onto Exile in the mid lane. Flash comes out from Airwax, but response from Exile. A bit weird from Airwax because that was already so available, but Exile steps up to clear out the tunnel, and that was just not work. He's going to be finished off by Betsy. I'm not even sure why he jumped back in for that.
To be honest, he just wasn't expecting Raze to be there. With this lane swap setup, you would assume that the support is now going to return to the bottom half of the map, but he doesn't need to. There's no turret left for him to take. You can just have the AD carry sit in that lane and just soak up all the farm or push up the wave. And to be honest, it was just a misread of the map coming out from Exile. He was forced to use his cleanse from the ultimate from Betsy. He was also forced to use that flash very early on. And now we're basically seeing what Move did in Game 1 from Airwax in Game 2. And the problem for Move is he can't reciprocate the same sort of early game pressure because he's playing that Graves, he's playing that champion that takes a little bit longer to scale up. So big misplay from Exile, giving over first blood to ROCCAT.
Hylissang, he's going to try and make something happen in the top side, but Parang had already sniffed out the gank coming in, so he's absolutely fine with this. And Hylissang will go back to his laning partner. There's a pink ward, but he's going to miss it this time around. He'll get it later, I'm sure. Mid lane, though, because of Betsy's aggression in the early game and Betsy's ability to have picked up that kill with the help of his team, he's got that kill over Exile, and he's got 2 waves over him. And Airlax is coming back into mid lane, and he interrupts Shifting Sands, so Exile has to burn his ultimate. Betsy, great follow-up, and now he's sped up as well from the passive, which will pick up an easy kill onto Exile. This is all going wrong.
It certainly is. Exile giving away another kill. Move is not providing any support in the middle lane, and Chachi, he's overextended in the bottom half of the map, taking a lot of damage. Airlax is here as well. And that's just going to force UOL away from the turret. But meanwhile, in the top half of the map, they're just bounding down onto this turret. They're not going to be able to take it quick enough, and Parang is just going to be able to soak up all this farm.
This will cause major issues for the Unicorns of Love, having a fed Varus on the opposing team. Such a good start to this one. Move in the bot lane, kind of filling in the shoes of the ADC, but unfortunately Graves not really using that role anymore, or ever. Past the rework, but Veritasi was pushing in the top wave against Parang, and he's still fine. ROCCAT, though, see if they can leverage the how strong Betsy is right now, because he's already way above Exile in terms of itemization and power. Hylissang and Veritas were trying to take away this red, but Parang does react in time. So what do Unicorns of Love do from here, Velius? Does he just have to try and shut down Betsy, or because Varus will have such a big impact in the mid game?
They need Chachi to get 6 first, because once he's got that ultimate, the pressure from ROCCAT in the mid lane has to be alleviated, because you always have to be mindful of that Shen ultimate just ruining your gank, especially if move suddenly comes around the corner. It's like, oh, 1v2? No, 3v2 in our favor now. So Chachi needs that 6. He has just hit it. So it was smart from ROCCAT to abuse the window that they had between 1 and 6. And given the lane swap, it obviously delays getting to that level 6 a little bit longer for your top laners. So smart from ROCCAT, like the early game pressure. The question is, you know, as you said, for ROCCAT, how they keep up this pressure, because we've seen them have an early game lead in the past and throw it away. Whereas Unicorns of Love, they're now on the back foot. They need to figure out a way to get back into this game, and that is trying to make a play with Chachi. You be over-aggressive. You create these numbers advantage, because Parang doesn't have his teleport right now. You have a very small window where you could try to force a fight. I mean, if Exile just goes in now with his ultimate, Betsy has no summoner spells. They could look to pick up a kill. Trying to force these plays then and there is what you need to take advantage of, and UOL just needs to be a little bit more proactive and willing to take these risks.
Yeah. I mean, they were taking them in game 1. They were really putting it to ROCCAT, but ROCCAT have this pretty strong gold lead here. What's up?
But also remember that UOL also have a scaling combo. Exile,
He's going in as the ultimate. Veritas, everyone's coming in the mid lane, but it's Betsy on the receiving end to start this one off. Raze is going to come with the ultimate, but there's the double kill for Move. Parang does not want to be here anymore. Pops the ultimate, desperate power flash away, and that very rapidly went wrong for ROCCAT.
So there's the play that we were just discussing. You needed to be proactive if you're Unicorns of Love. You throw the Shen ultimate down onto Exile. He dives in with the ultimate, gets the knock-up onto Betsy, who does not have any summoner spells available, and they get themselves a kill. ROCCAT tried to respond, but because all 5 members of Unicorns are there is no way that they can turn that fight around, and now Unicorns, they're pushing onto this tier 1 turret in the mid.
Finally, ROCCAT are able to clear out this minion wave, so Unicorns at least won't pick up that tower, but just take a look at the setup. Everyone is in the wings ready for a fight to erupt.
Everyone's waiting for the play. ROCCAT want to go for the dive, but UOL, they're just a little bit quicker on the trigger. And then because of that Shen ult combo on top of the Azir, there's just no response from Betsy. He's too far away from his team for them to collapse fast enough. And not only do they get the teleport out from Parang, but they get the heal out from Steelback as well. The flash is gone from that Rise too. So many good things going in favor of Unicorns of Love right now, and this composition is where it wants to be. You're not falling too far behind during the laning phase. Yes, that Exile, he went 0-2, but his team is compensating for that by helping him out and putting as much pressure down to Betsy as they can.
Yeah, now 2-2 in this game. Unicorns of Love got a pretty good track up until the late game here, and I was just about to say, oh, gonna hold that thought for a second. Chachi comes in, flash dash onto Betsy, collateral damage from nowhere, but Chachi is locked up under the tower. A lot of return damage in from Betsy, so was able to get out of that 3-man gank. Raze also coming up the mid lane.
So you get the flash and ghost out from Betsy in exchange for the flash from Chachi. And okay, you don't quite have the damage to kill Betsy because Exile did not have his ultimate available, but still, 2 big summoner spells burnt on a low mobility AD carry up against an Azir, a Graze, and a Shen is fantastic for Unicorns of Love. And now they're going to make a play onto this tier 2 turret in the top.
TP coming in from Chachi, zoning away Parang and Airwax, and Unicorns of Love are just going to take this one away, being helped out as well by the early Mountain Dragon. It's only 12 minutes in, and Unicorns of Love are pushing up to this inhibitor tower now. Now backing off. Yeah, this is just coming up Millhouse for Unicorns of Love, looking real good in this game.
Not great lane assignments from ROCCAT, and unfortunately for them, they end up giving away the tier 2 turret in the top lane, largely because they send their AD carry to the bottom half of the map. He's not going to be able to... If he was in the top half, he could have been there with Raze to clear out that big minion wave that was stacking up. ROCCAT did not read the map well enough. They didn't recognize all this deep vision that was in their jungle. And look at Parang.
Wow, getting 1v1 by Move right now, but the tables have turned. Betsy comes in, picks up the kill. Airwax onto Exile, but a fantastic ultimate will come in and separate the fight. Airwax chasing down onto Chachi, now onto Veritas, gets the knock up. Does he have the damage from Steelback and Raze? They didn't even want to get involved. Mystic Shot will hit Airwax on the way out. That was overall a 2-for-0 actually from ROCCAT.
So, ROCCAT actually turning this one around. The fact that Unicorns of Love were able to pick up the tier 1 turret and then over-aggress after not going back and actually spending their gold means that ROCCAT are able to find themselves a turnaround fight. So, 3 members of ROCCAT try to get the collapse into 4 members of Unicorns, but that wall actually does a great job of splitting up ROCCAT, or keeping them all together even, that they're able to get the exhaust down onto Azir and mitigate a lot of his damage. And with him gone, Ezreal's not at a point that he's able to clean up the fight. They're very wary of the damage that Steelback is putting out, and that means that ROCCAT are able to clean up a kill. And bear in mind, Move, he died up in the top half of the map because he was going super ham onto Parang and he just didn't have the damage to get the kill.
Right now, ROCCAT, this game is just swinging back and forth. Crazy plays are happening in this early game. And Hillsang and Mover probably going to take away this Infernal Dragon without too much contest from ROCCAT. Now coming down and just not really interested in contesting this. Move just needs to finish this one off. There we go.
Gets a camp advantage.
And
it's just a standard lane swap. Perfect split.
14 minutes
Left side
in.
is now belong to Fnatic.
So
Right side completely belongs to Origin.
Yeah, we did
right now,
catch a
Unicorns of Love,
hybrid. They ran all the way up to the Wolfcamp, placed a ward down themselves.
were able to pick themselves up the Infernal Drake, as well as get themselves the blue of ROCCAT, which is always a nice thing to have, take away from your opponents. Especially denying it from the Varus means that he won't be able to get the same sort of poke down because he won't have the same sort of mana reserves. But only a small objective is obviously not going to prevent Betsy from doing any poke whatsoever.
Yeah. I thought I'd just become psychic because I thought I could hear Mitch and Trevor in the other studio. Maybe I've just developed psychic abilities, but either way, ROCCAT pushing down the bottom lane here, and Move is taking away this pesky pink ward that happens to be in his jungle. Eventually someone's going to find it. 15 minutes in, and this game is actually more even now, and 3 of those kills from ROCCAT are all onto Betsy, so this is his time to shine and really put down those piercing arrows and make it difficult for Unicorns of Love to do what they want to do in this game. Airwax floating around the bot lane as well. What is up, Mr. Vedius?
We did mention earlier on that Steelback and Betsy were really the superstars for ROCCAT, the people that you want to have ahead if you want ROCCAT to succeed, and the fact that both those players right now have the gold advantage, the CS advantage, that is a great setup for ROCCAT moving forward. So we're approaching the mid-game point where both teams who are Exile forced to use the cleanse.
Oh, Chains of Corruption will lock down Move. Mid tower's dropping towards ROCCAT. Chachi's coming in here. Conquering Sands doesn't quite want to pull the trigger, but clears out the minion wave, so they are good to go. You can actually just see how back and forth this game has been. ROCCAT with the advantage and Unicorns pulling it back. Then ROCCAT with the advantage and Unicorns are pulling it back, and now ROCCAT still have the gold lead, but you can see it's literally just small amounts of gold. 200 gold in it is practically nothing. ROCCAT trying to exacerbate that lead. Move's going to have to pop the ultimate to back away. Raze is going to block up the damage coming in from Unicorns of Love, and eventually now ROCCAT will back on off for good. Well, not for the rest of the game, but for the next minute or so, Chachi is able to pick up this farm as well. Let's take stock of how everyone's doing though, because even though the game is even in terms of gold, you can see the gold a little bit more over to Parang in the top lane. Betsy, of course, ahead in the mid lane. and Steelback as well. You can see a big deficit is actually moved over Airwax because of the kills he picked up and how much involvement he's had. He's actually got 100 farm as the jungler at 17 minutes over Airwax.
It's what Graves does, man. That's what he does. He's really good at clearing those waves. And now Unicorns of Love, they're going to be able to pick themselves up a Rift Herald, which is likely going to be putting onto Chachi, given that he will be that split pusher. And this is a pretty good time to pick it up because that will last now until 37 minutes, which is pretty late into the game.
Can confirm. It is a late point in the game.
But one person that I do want to mention is Exile, not being on that Assassin, only sitting on Danash's Tooth right now. I feel like he needs to go for Zhonya's next with the amount of AD that is on the side of ROCCAT, but then you've got this situation where Betsy going to be going for that full penetration build. He's already got the Ghost Blade completed. Wouldn't surprise me if he works towards something like a Mortal Reminder as well, given the plus 10 AD. It's actually so much more valuable now. And as well as that, you get the more of Malmortius to mitigate a lot of the magic damage. And right now, ROCCAT once again setting up for a siege underneath this tier 1 turret in the mid. They have a lot of poke damage with this Varus, but it's this fact that it's really difficult for ROCCAT to actually force a fight. They need UOL to overextend, and yes, they can get this pick, but do they have
Chains of Corruption? Someone needs to get in there and save him. Hillasang got a body blow, piercing arrow out from Betsy. Will finish off his counterpart.
Good snipe coming out from Betsy, right in between the two members of Unicorns, and now that they've got that pick, they can finally take this tier 1 turret down in the mid lane, but Veritas is taking a lot of damage.
Betsy really turning up. Cosmic Radiance is going to save his life. Hillasang into the battle. And in the backlines, Chachi's coming in, looking for a target, but he's got no help. He's going to have to Shadow Dash to safety. Betsy was looking to follow up, but unfortunately no mana on him now. Everyone from Unicorns of Love flashing up red, and ROCCAT are going to try and capitalize on this. 2 minions left in this wave, but another one very soon. Veritas getting out there. Arcane Shift at the last second. And ROCCAT decide to back away, actually, despite the wounded Unicorns of Love trying to defend.
They don't want to overcommit to anything. They can't afford an Exile. He's just trying to get a bit of poke down onto Airwax when there are 3 members of ROCCAT in the mid lane. You're just asking to get caught out of position. The snipe, it does hit Hillasang, but fortunately the damage reduction isn't actually enough to keep Exile alive. And that results in another kill going over to Betsy. Just Exile, we've talked about him so much. When he doesn't get this LeBlanc, he just does not seem to be in a point of comfort, because he's now 0-4 on the Azir. His positioning has just been so questionable, and that's the most important thing when it comes to Azir. You need to manage your soldiers efficiently. The use of your wall is very important, and you are this control mage. That's literally your go-to thing. And if you're constantly playing on the front line, constantly playing over aggressive, you're going to get punished for it.
And he has been punished multiple times in this game. Betsy, though, has been really turning up on Varus. Even though he got ganked once in the mid lane, he's picked up 4 kills, and a lot of those were really set up from him as well. Great Chains of Corruption, being pinpoint accurate on those Qs, and that would have been very close to finishing off Exile, but he did manage to shifting sands away to safety. Next dragon is now alive. It will be the Ocean Dragon. Unicorns of Love, won't be taking this one away. ROCCAT will take their first dragon off of the game. Yeah, really not in position to contest this one here, Vedius.
But unfortunately for ROCCAT, it's not a Mountain Drake or an Infernal Drake, which is what UOL are currently sitting on. So not the ideal. And the next one is Ocean as well. So the two Drakes that ROCCAT are likely able to get themselves are unfortunately not the ones that they would have wanted.
It's
but
not
still,
horrible, though.
It's not horrible, especially when you're running this poke composition with Betsy.
Yeah.
Thing is, for me, I get very mindful of calling it a poke composition because the only poke you really have is Betsy.
But he's a one-man artillery at this point with so
really
much gold funneled into him. So,
but it's Steelback going for more of the scaling build now with the nerf to Ghostblade and the nerf to Lucian as well. Yeah. You just want to have more of an impact in the late game, and Lucian is still very much that independent AD carry that can make all kinds of plays, so he's not weak by any means. And going for this more scaling build allows you to make plays, but have a look at Airwax or Chachi even, as they both just
two ships in the night just passing each other and fading off into the sunset. But in these situations where everyone's just kind of standing off, it's Betsy who comes out ahead because he's just able to poke away with piercing arrows all day. And Veritas isn't really that big right now. He's got the 2-item power spike, but that's a big CS lead in the bot lane. I hadn't even noticed. Steelback.
And it's it's all because Steelback is being given all this sidewave. Parang is on low econ right now, where ROCCAT just aren't interested in helping him out. He's playing a Rise. He needs to get to this point with which he can have a big impact. And to be fair, he has completed the Rod of Ages. It is on 8 stacks right now. I'm going to check just very quickly how many tier stacks he's on, and he's on 564, so he's getting there pretty quickly. So he should still be able to get that 2-item spike on top of the GA, which means he will still be pretty powerful. And he's been getting enough experience that he's still relevant in the game. But the fact that there is so much priority for ROCCAT to get all their gold down onto Steelback really does emphasize how much value ROCCAT put on this AD and mid duo.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Betsy's fine. He doesn't need more farm right now. Oh, here comes Chachi again from the backlines, but last time it didn't go so well. He's going to taunt just Airwax, but that's not really that helpful. Chains of Corruption will lock down the backline in from Unicorns. Raze is going to follow up now. Here comes Raze with another great ultimate onto Veritas, but Parang and no one really from ROCCAT can get involved. Cosmic Radiance onto the entire lineup of Unicorns.
And this was what we were talking about during Champions Select. It was just, how do ROCCAT actually force the fights that they want? They get a lot of poke damage down. You can see how chunked out Move and Hylissang were. They land the ultimate from Betsy to just act as a disengage tool, but then when they want to try and re-engage and try and force a fight, they have nothing in their toolkit available. Parang literally walked in from the flank, said hello, and then left again. There was nothing that he could really do to get involved. So unfortunately for ROCCAT, their composition showing signs that they have no real way to force a fight. And Unicorns with the Azir Ezreal have so many options to disengage. He has gone for the Trinity Force build. I'm not personally a big fan in this particular composition, because you can see that with the Azir you're going for more scaling.
Yeah.
By going for Trinity Force, you're going for more of a mid-game spike. But and to be fair, Unicorns definitely not the ones with the mid-game lead right now.
Really want to emphasize that though, because Betsy has done over 3 times the damage of Exile in this game, 18,000 to 5k, but the problem is ROCCAT can't get into a fight. Everyone can be on 1 hit from Unicorns, but they just run away and ROCCAT can't capitalize on it. So it doesn't matter how well Betsy's doing right here. Unless Parang just gets the flank of the Sentry, Airwax comes in as well. They just can't make it happen. And Chachi has had some interesting flanks. He always comes in from the backline. It's like, ha, the perfect position for me to be in this share. And then it's just like, actually, you probably don't want to fight here. And then he just runs back to his team. So this is a very weird game for sure. ROCCAT have the small gold advantage, but slowly pushing in. What they do well is leveraging Betsy's siege.
They literally just gave away a completely free mid turret. No idea why Unicorns will love that one go. They could have sent Exile up to the top. They could have had Move go up to the top lane, keep their main wave clears in the mid lane. But ROCCAT now 4 members strong. Gonna likely take this tier 2 turret in the bottom lane as well, and Unicorn are just giving away all these free objectives to ROCCAT.
There's a lot of question marks right now for me, Verius. ROCCAT struggling to get involved in fights, therefore Unicorns can just sit under their towers and stop them from taking them, and instead Unicorns of Love just kind of go back to base 1 by 1, farm up the jungle, and it's like, oh wait, we just lost 2 turrets. Inner turrets as well, which should be much easier to defend than the outer line, so that was bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know why Unicorns of Love let that happen.
Yeah, a lot of odd decisions.
They could have easily defended that push, especially when you have the low range Lucian who has to get in range of the turret against an Azir. You've also got that Shen potentially ulting onto the Azir. We saw the combo earlier on in the game from Unicorns of Love. Yep. It's a great way to force a fight. You have the Trinity Force. Ezreal is strong right now. Graves is strong right now. Azir just completed the Rylai's. Yes, he is pretty far behind Betsy, but it doesn't matter because your other 2 members are pretty strong. You just go in, you do your Shurima Shuffle, you have the Shen ultimate on top of you to keep yourself alive long enough. You have all the HP from the Rylai's too. Like, Unicorns of Love have all the tools in their kit to sit there and shut ROCCAT down. And they are not doing anything. We talked about how they needed to be proactive, and they showed signs of that. Yet right now, they're just kind of giving ROCCAT everything, and they're saying, oh no, please don't hurt us. Just have the turret. We don't want to get poked anymore by Betsy.
It just feels like they ran out of steam from Game 1. Game 1 looked so good for them, and now Unicorns of Love just kind of lost track of what their game plan was, really. Betsy is going to try and steal away this Boober, and he gets it with the rest of his team coming in. Move was trying to come in range for a smite to counter-steal. Move's also going to take another Q out from Betsy. Betsy is hurting so much right now. Each of those Qs is chunking people massively, but
3 items.
Yeah, but while we've literally said this time and time again. Like, ROCCAT should be able to land this poke, but then not get the engage down. But Unicorns are just kind of giving ROCCAT a chance. It's just like, here, we know how your composition struggles, so we're just going to help you out real quick. And, yeah.
And just look at the vision right now around Baron.
Weird.
The entire top half of Unicorn's jungle is controlled by ROCCAT right now. And kind of find it interesting that Parang went for the GA before completing his tier item, but Parang is getting collapsed on.
He is. Here comes Move, Flash Dash by Chachi. They're going to have to kill him twice though. Flash comes in from Parang, and collateral damage will create some distance between Move and Parang, but he kind of just walks up and will just die to Parang. Chachi will drop him into GA. He will come back up with part of his health bar remaining, and Chachi is going to slap him away with these, I don't know what they're called. He's going to kill him eventually, though. Twilight Assault is going to be slow. No, Parang. Okay, he's dead. That was way closer than it should have been.
Certainly was. So much lifesteal, and now ROCCAT with 2 members of Unicorns to the bottom half of the map. They're going for the Baron.
They are. ROCCAT with 3 members here. Betsy trying to zone them away. Killer Sign dropping low, but Cosmic Radiance is coming down. Chachi into the fight. Betsy's going to fall to exile, but the Culling will finish him off in from Steelback. 3 for 2 overall. Who picked up the ban? It was ROCCAT.
But bear in mind, it was 3 for 3 because Parang ended up getting a kill onto Move down in the bottom half of the map. So overall, big win for ROCCAT. Only 2 members did get the Baron, but that's more than enough to be able to break into the rest of the base. So you can see the ROCCAT in a 4 versus 3 situation. Betsy just getting as much poke down as possible. Don't like that ultimate from Betsy. He got a little bit greedy. He used it way too preemptively, and if he'd had it then, he could have got a kill down onto Exile, but unfortunately for Unicorns, they have no jungle smite. They have no way to steal away this Baron. Betsy ends up getting killed off on the side from Exile, and that's the problem that you have when you actually get into a DPS battle in the Z. You're never going to come out ahead, simply because he just does too much damage when you're standing in range of his soldiers. But still, ROCCAT, they can be pretty happy with the fact that they picked up the Baron. Parang can be pretty happy with the fact that he was able to get a kill in a 2v1. Nearly got 2.
Yeah.
And if he just had that cooldown, he definitely would have been able to pick up the 2 kills. But overall, good execution from ROCCAT. And this is good stuff from that.
It is, but this is a messy game. Like, both sides are making a lot of mistakes, and some are being capitalized on and some are not. And it was kind of a comedy of errors between the 2 mid laners, because Betsy misses the ultimate, Exile tries to punish him, also misses his ultimate, and then eventually they just both die. Parang's in this 1-on-3. He made the 1-on-2 work, but this time too many people were chasing him. Razor's coming in here with Airwax. Betsy doesn't really want any of this. Chachi is going to get the taunt down onto Airwax. Razor's going to help him out. In comes Veritas and Exile. The chains are spreading, and that's the end of that chapter. Steelback will take out Move in the middle of nowhere. What's going on, Vedius?
I have no idea what just happened there. Parang dying randomly in the top half of the map. The rest of his team isn't there, and he just gets caught out by 3 people. And then Move also randomly dying to Steelback in a position where he just should not have been. And ROCCAT not properly using their Baron to break into the base. UOL clumping together to come up with whatever strategy they can to find some avenue back into this. And it's just a mess, Pulse. It is. It is a pile of baloney. That is what this is right now.
There's spaghetti all over the floor in this game. 30 minutes in. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to actually track Move and what the hell he was doing.
So just look at the minimap. Parang is pushing because he thinks he's safe. And, okay, so Unicorns right now could have just pushed down mid. Instead, they try to help out Parang. When they finally get to Parang, he's already lost his life. And then they realize, oh, wait a minute, we can't force a fight because we're now in a 4 versus 5 situation. And then Move is running top. For no reason at all, Move is moving away from his team. And he ends up just dying Steelback. I don't know, Pulse. There were many questionable decisions there.
I was following Move there, and he thought that his team wasn't going to be able to get out alive, so he moved upwards, and he had no faith. If he had just gone to the rest of the team, he would have run down and survived, but he was just like, nope, I'm out. I'm going to try and survive while the rest of my team dies, and then he just got picked off. So, yeah, moment of indecision and just making the wrong choice there will allow ROCCAT an even further gold lead. Chachi's going to E over the wall. Here comes Raze though. Celestial Fisher comes out, and Steelback is going to chase down Chachi. A lot of damage coming in. We'll get the stun off, and we'll finally take him out. Move over the wall. Gonna blast them away with the collateral damage. In comes Exile, looking for one, looking for two. But Steelback's gonna go big and find the double. Meanwhile, Hillersang's coming out. Airwax is into the base of Unicorns of Love, but he's going to cut off the retreat from Hillersang. Will the ultimate come in time? No, it will not. And Veritas will not really benefit from the Cosmic Radiance. 4 members just died from Unicorns in what I really can't call a team fight. ROCCAT are now chasing the top lane down. Veritas is the only one who is alive. ROCCAT are going to get this inhibitor. They are going to continue to push. Airwax is going to come back into this fight. And he may just close out the game here, Venius. What is even going on? Chachi's going to not do anything. He's dead. Parang's going to go onto the tower with Steel back. Nexus turrets fall. Nexus dies. ROCCAT are just going to pick up the win here. I have no idea what just happened.
So, ROCCAT are able to close that one out in what was
a goofy game.
A goofy game.
Yeah.
I think goofy is the best way to describe it. I do want to give praise to the early game of ROCCAT for Betsy in particular. Airwax put a lot of pressure down onto trying to get Betsy ahead. And I think the fact that they did get the counter matchup was very beneficial for Betsy because they punished quite heavily to be honest, the lack of experience that Exile seemed to demonstrate on that Azir. So, it was messy as we got later into the game because, I mean, there were highlight moments where Parang getting himself the 1 kill and a 2 versus 1 in the bottom lane, then Unicorns of Love being very smart and saying, hey, let's go get the Baron really quickly. Yeah. There's no way in which they can respond. And the fact that they used Betsy to get a lot of these picks, get a lot of damage down underneath these turrets was smart, but just so many errors as well. Just the way in which they used the Baron, their draft was highly questionable. I mean, that Ryze did nothing. That Ryze, other than that play in the bottom lane, that Ryze literally had no impact in that game.
Yeah.
And Steelback did a great job on Lucian. 5-0 and 2 was his final score.
Yeah, a lot of cleanup.
But it was... I wasn't happy with the draft. I didn't like the fact that Unicorns of Love didn't make proactive plays when they had so many tools in their kit to do it. The itemization as well, if Veritas had gone for more of the kiting style, then they could have stalled out for a lot longer, especially given that ROCCAT had no way to actually force an engagement.
Yeah.
There are big question marks right now, especially seeing as ROCCAT lost game 1, and they look like a 4th place team to me, like just last week. And now they're struggling against Unicorns of Love. This should be a team that is firmly in 10th place. That is what this team should be. But
they should.
They're taking games off of ROCCAT. They're forcing ROCCAT to have to work to actually win a game. And I don't know, Pulse. I'm worried for both these teams right now.
I am too. Definitely was a worrying trend opening up here, but as you said, I mean, this game was just spaghetti, right? Like, it just didn't make a lot of sense. First game was actually really good, I felt.
Pulse. It was baloney.
It was baloney. I just want to take a look at the damage dealt, because Betsy had 35,000 damage dealt in that game.
That's to be expected. That's to be expected.
The next highest was 13,000, though, coming in from Ezreal. And he was just like, if you could see this, he's literally dwarfing everyone. And he had a really good game. He is definitely my player of the game. But it shouldn't have worked like that. That shouldn't have been the way that ROCCAT won that game, because they shouldn't have been able to take towers. They shouldn't have been able to capitalize on Betsy so easily. With Unicorns of Love, it was specifically that moment in my mind where Unicorns of Love just gave up middle tower and bottom tower for no reason. They just went back to base at random times and just let ROCCAT get away with this win.
So the thing about this draft, right, is you early pick the Shen.
Yeah.
There are no answers to it. You have the Ryze. Okay, I can understand where you'd pick the Ryze. You have 2 scaling, and eventually Ryze is going to get to a point where he does outscale the Shen. I mean, it's Ryze. If you have standard matchups. So ROCCAT should have done whatever they could in the early game to force standard lanes.
Yeah.
Because that is what they want. They have the Lucian Braum, really good into Ezreal Tarek. They already have the mid lane matchup advantage, Varus into Azir. We saw it go heavily in their favor.
Exactly.
And the Ryze can bully out the Shen, farm up for free, and get into a point in which he's that big late game terror. And then you just slowly build up an advantage from the laning phase, and then you sort of snowball it from there. They get the lane swap. Things go horribly for ROCCAT. I mean, they lose a lot of objectives. They lose a lot of turrets. And then just while all this has been going on, the mid lane has just been getting camped. Move has had no response. We saw why the Graves is being falling off, and that's because he doesn't have the same sort of early game impact that someone like a Rek'Sai has, someone like an Elise has. And so, not actually a massive fan of the Graves, and you can just see why, especially when this whole team is very much built about, let's make sure XR has a decent laning phase.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a look at a clip from that last game. It's the Rek'Sai here getting onto Azir. Good commentary there by Pyra. But actually, the topic I want to hit next really here, Vedius, is the fact that what do we take away from this game for the two teams? Because Unicorns of Love, we were like, okay, they look like a 10th place team coming in here, but they really showed up against ROCCAT in the first game, but still make errors that would kind of lean towards them still being towards the bottom of the table. Maybe not even 10th place anymore, but ROCCAT, disappointing. They should have been head and shoulders over the Unicorns of Love, but displayed problems in Game 1 and Game 2. So a lot of question marks as we head into the next couple of weeks for both of these teams, and we'll see what this means. But we are going to send it over to Sifa, who's standing by on the side stage with Betsy.
Question marks indeed, Pulse. Hopefully seeing a lot of them answered in the next couple days. I'm, of course, sitting over here with the victorious Betsy, 1-1 in their match overall. And the first thing I want to ask you is, Game 1, pretty rough playing the Azir, but you flipped it on its head. You went for the Varus into the Azir in Game 2 and absolutely dominated. Run me through that matchup. How does it feel to play that matchup?
I think at every point in the game, I think Varus wins. And especially with the new start with Mana Crystal and the 3 pots, you can pretty much win the lane, and you're also better late game. So.
Absolutely. So looking at mid lane overall, it feels like we've seen a lot of changes this season. You yourself have been pulling out the Swain, seeing a lot of bans having it taken away from you, Vladimir as well. How do you feel about the mid lane champion pool currently, and who's your preferred pick if you can get your hands on it?
I like those champs the most, I would say. But it's really diverse, like the champion pool right now. And I feel like you can play almost everything. And like why I like Swain and Vlad the most is because they pretty much fit in like almost every comp. So.
Definitely a nice thing to have that flexibility. Looking at the way your team has been executing in the last couple of weeks, we've been on the broadcast really critical of your guys' early game, and I just wanted to get your thoughts about how you feel about how you guys play the early game, and are you happy with it? What do you think needs to change?
I think it's mostly me and Airworks not playing that well. I feel lately I played really bad last week, for example, and I feel like if we step up, our early game will be much better, and therefore we can win more games.
And so what do you think it's going to take to step up that early game? Is it more practice? Is it figuring out how to play the early game better? Or do you just feel like you've been underperforming a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's just us underperforming.
Overall, of course. So looking at your guys' late game team fighting, we talked a little bit before the interview, and we praised you nonstop for it in the first couple of weeks. But you said you felt it's been on the decline. Why do you think the team fighting has been falling short, and what do you think it's coming down to in these late game situations?
I'm not really sure. I feel like it's a bit random. And also our decision making lately have been much worse than before as well. So if we can like have better communication during the game, I think our late game will be as good as before as well.
Yeah, well, it's something I'm very excited to see as you guys move forward. Obviously a little bit up and down, but always good to see you guys pull out these wins in the end. But thank you so much for talking to me today, and we're going to toss it back over to the caster desk to announce the player of the game.
Thank you very much, Sifa. And the player of the game is actually going to be the guy we just saw there. Betsy had a fantastic performance on the Varus and just did so well in that game, being able to poke people down and just capitalize on that mid lane advantage.
He was a big reason as to why they were able to close that one out. The poke damage that he was putting down largely facilitated Steelback. Yep, being that cleanup AD carry that he did have a bit of a reputation for last split, and unfortunately for him in this game, he has to carry that burden once more.
Indeed, but
it was still overall a decent game from Betsy. His use of the Varus was impressive, and the fact that Elwax set him up for success is exactly what ROCCAT want to be doing in pretty much all of their games.
Which was the opposite from what our storyline was coming into the week. This is like actually Elwax and Betsy haven't had the greatest synergy coming up to this point. But it was the opposite in this game, where they really came together and made it work. They also did capitalize on the mistakes from Unicorns of Love, but also the vibe from Betsy as well. He's like, the team recognizes a lot of the mistakes they made, so back to the drawing board. So hopefully they can come back stronger. But we did see good things from both teams. We did see bad things from both
do also
teams.
just want to highlight how many resources ROCCAT actually invest into Steelback, because he was on 16.4 thousand gold. The next closest to him was Betsy on 13.8.
Yep.
I mean, that's that's a 2.5, 3,000 gold differential between the AD carry and the mid lane.
He was going for the CS record there. He had 370 at 32 minutes.
I mean, that is how much ROCCAT tunnel their farm onto Steelback. And we've been saying that Parang perhaps has been struggling a bit to have an impact. Well, when you kind of look at it holistically, perhaps that reason is because Parang isn't getting any resources. He's not being allowed to shine, and
but
all of it is being tunneled
the chicken or the egg, though?
Yeah,
you know, like, is it because he's underperforming, and given resources, or the other way around? We just don't know right now. But with the score settled here in the studio, we're going to send it over to the action in the LCS arena, where Origin are currently looking to settle the score with Fnatic in Game 2 of our match of the week.